All right, let's get right into it. Today we're going to tackle something that, let's be honest, drives pretty much every team crazy. How do you securely share access to all your online accounts? We're going to explore a completely modern way of thinking about this, a way you can share the account without ever sharing the password. So let me ask you, does this sound familiar? Your team is just stuck in this state of password chaos. You know the drill, right? You need to give a colleague access to a tool, so you just drop the login details in a private chat. It feels fast, it feels easy, but what you're really doing is kicking off a massive security and organizational headache. Yeah, I'm talking about the password sharing headache. So let's just get real for a minute and talk about the specific problems that we all face with this old school way of doing things. Because this isn't just a minor inconvenience, it's a genuine risk to your business. And these frustrations, they're the classics, aren't they? You've got the classic account lockouts because two people tried to log in at once, the dreaded group-wide password reset. And come on, we all know about the hidden shadow spreadsheet, that one secret file floating around with all the company's keys. But the worst part? That constant stream of messages. Hey, can you send me the code? It's a total mess, completely inefficient and wildly insecure.
And look, this is the part that really matters. You can have the strongest password in the world and you can use multi-factor authentication, that extra code from your phone, which you absolutely should be using, but none of it fixes the core issue. The second you share those credentials, you've just handed over the keys to the kingdom. You've lost all control.
So if that's the problem, what's the solution? Well, there is a much better way. It just requires a small but powerful mental shift. We need to stop sharing passwords and start sharing access. Let's dig into what that actually means. And this table just nails the difference. Think about it this way. The old way, sharing passwords, that's like giving someone a physical copy of your house key. They have it forever, they can get in whenever they want. But the new way, that's like giving them a hotel key card. It only works for one specific door and only for a limited time. You have total control and the risk just plummets. This is the mantra. This is the phrase to remember. Share access, not credentials. It's a really simple idea, but it fundamentally changes how your team works together. It separates the ability to do a task from the ownership of the account itself. So what is this magic we're talking about? It's called session sharing, and here's what it is in plain English. You log into an account in a special browser tab, and then you grant a teammate temporary control of just that tab. They never see the password, they never need the MFA code, they just get to work. Simple as that. Okay, that sounds pretty cool in theory, right? But what does this actually look like when you're using a real tool? Let's break down the practical workflow. It's simpler than you think. It's a beautifully simple four-step process. First, you launch an isolated browser tab and you sign in, just like you normally would. Second, you share that live session. But, and here's the cool part, you set the rules. You can add a time limit, you can blur out sensitive stuff. Third, when they're done, you revoke their access instantly with one click. And finally, poof, the remote tab is completely destroyed. Clean, secure, and finished.
So you see, this whole approach isn't just one single feature. It's more like a whole new toolkit for secure collaboration, one that gives you a level of control that you've probably never had before. Let's break down some of the key tools you get.
First up, let's talk about ending those wrong account mistakes. We've all had that heart-stopping moment, right? You realize you just posted to the wrong client's social media account. Well, because every single tab is completely isolated from the others, cookies from one account can't interview with another. Problem solved. For good.
This next one is huge for security. Access that automatically expires. You can give a contractor access for exactly 1 hour to get a task done. The second that timer is up, their access is automatically revoked. No more forgetting to change passwords or remove users from your accounts.
And what about keeping private data private? Well, you can delegate work without ever exposing sensitive information. Before you even share the session, you can literally choose to blur out the billing page or completely block the URL for account settings. Your teammate only ever sees exactly what they need to see and nothing more.
And here's a massive security win you might not even think about. Because this browser session is actually running in the cloud and just being streamed to the screen, no web code ever executes on your local computer. It's a zero-trust model, which means you're protected from malware and all sorts of other web-based threats. And just to back all this up with some serious tech, every single session is protected by AES 256 encryption. Now that might just sound like a bunch of letters and numbers, but it's the same standard that banks and governments use to protect their most sensitive data. So yeah, it's secure. Okay, so you might be thinking, who is this actually built for?
Let's get specific and look at a couple of real-world roles to see just how powerful this workflow can be.
First, let's talk about e-commerce sellers. If you're running an online store, especially if you're trying to manage multiple storefronts or you're working with virtual assistants, this is going to be a game changer.
So here's your perfect e-commerce playbook. You can run each of your storefronts in its own isolated tab. No more cookie clashes. When you need your VA to jump in and process orders, you can grant them 1 hour of access to just the orders page while completely blocking them from seeing your store's financial settings. All the while, your master password is never, ever exposed. Now, let's switch gears and talk about ad ops managers and marketers, the people who are constantly juggling a dozen different client accounts across a bunch of different platforms. For this team, the playbook is just as powerful. You can isolate each client's ad accounts in their own separate tabs. You can let a media buyer into a Google Ads account for just 30 minutes to check on a campaign, but you can blur the payment details so they can't see the client's credit card info. It's the perfect combination of control and collaboration.
So to pull this all together, here is your best practice checklist for making this work. Number 1, always enforce MFA on the original accounts. 2, use those session timers for all shared access. 3, make it a habit to blur or block sensitive pages. 4, maintain audit trails for accountability. And 5, use disposable sessions for those quick one-off tasks. That right there is your recipe for success. You see, when you make that shift from sharing credentials to sharing controlled temporary access, you solve an entire class of security and efficiency problems. So, the real question is, are you ready to stop managing all that password chaos and finally start enabling truly secure collaboration?